So, welcome to the new and improved version of the Safe Space podcast. And we're launching the inaugural version with Paul Hutchinson, an amazing human being and very special guest that I'm thrilled to have on the show. So, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Franco. Excited to be here.
So, Paul's joining us from Thailand. So, it's the middle of the night while I'm in here in rainy Bermuda today. So, Paul, before we get started, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, quick background. I'm a co-founder of Bridge Investment Group with John Pennington many years ago, where you ended up being billions and billions of dollars under management. In fact, when I retired in 2017, we had over 4,000 employees and over 50,000 multifamily units. I retired to focus my time on philanthropy. I'm the founder of the Child Liberation Foundation, which identifies and helps to rescue trafficked children around the world. And many years ago, I started out with some other foundations, which I left in 2019, but I am the executive producer of the Sound of Freedom movie, which has done very well in the box offices in the US and now internationally as well. So excited to come and share about my breakthroughs in understanding not only how to fix the child trafficking problem, but a much bigger problem that all kind of ties together with healing that inner child.
So I've not watched the movie yet. Tom and I are going to watch it while he's here in Bermuda. But it looks amazing. Like, it just looks incredible. And I'm so grateful that someone is taking a look at this issue because it is a massive issue globally. And I think it's been grossly underlooked. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it has. It has. Everybody thinks this happens in some other country. It doesn't happen in our house, in our neighborhood, but unfortunately it happens everywhere. And more than just trafficking, when it comes to the abuse of children, this is a global problem that lies at the root of trafficking, of war, of so many other issues that we have in our lifetime are things that we can tie back to that childhood trauma.
So when we met earlier, we talked about, the topic of this podcast was going to be, liberating the inner child. So let's talk about that from a practical perspective, first of all, and then from, you've got from call it a behavioral perspective. And then finally, what is the benefit of liberating that inner child? Right? Maybe we can give your example. I'll share my example, and then we'll get into a little bit more around it as it relates to family businesses and actually all human beings.
Absolutely, Franco. I believe that the answer to that, I mean, what is the reason we want to liberate the inner child? I think that the answer to that is everything. My fight against child trafficking for the last 10 years was fighting fire with fire, right? If you imagine the links in a chain, and the very end piece of that chain is the abuse of a child, and we never want anyone to get there. And so the goal is to break that chain way beyond that point. And unfortunately, with the undercover rescue missions, I've led or played a key part in over 70 undercover rescue missions in 15 countries over the last 10 years. And in doing so, yes, we made a huge impact in the lives of those children. But unfortunately, every single time that we went in, because not enough was being done to fix the demand, then 20 more children were being sucked back into the deepest recesses of hell. And so over the last year, as I took a step back, I asked myself, okay, really, what is the solution? How do we fix this? Where is this coming from? And I came to an understanding that it's generational trauma. So people that deal with challenges as a child, either physical abuse as a child or sexual abuse as a child or neglect as a child, all of these different things that we deal with as a child, if they go unresolved, then inevitably they come out in our adult lives in either anger issues, low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, or in some cases, the transfer of that trauma on to the next generation. Literally 1 in every 3 people who have unresolved childhood trauma, 1 in every 3 become contact offenders themselves. People ask me all the time, they say, Paul, how can you go face to face with somebody selling you a child and have you not have them see the anger and the hatred in your eyes? And my answer is this: what I wish more than anything is that I could go back 10 years and I can show some compassion. Now, realize this, I am not sympathizing with somebody who's crossed that line, right? I put my life in danger to ensure that they never hurt innocence again. But what if we could go back 10 years before they ever took that path and help them heal their inner child? Then we would have saved all those kids before they were ever abused in the first place. And so we don't have a time machine, but what we do have is hundreds of millions of people who need to heal that inner child, who need to heal that broken soul that didn't receive the love that they needed, or maybe were abused in some situation, and help them
Well,
heal.
yeah,
And we save millions of children that way.
And it's not just from a child trafficking perspective. It's relationships. One of the things that I tell my clients, or whenever I speak, is that everything we do as a human being, we do for a reason. Most of us have no idea what that reason is. It's either based on something that happened in the past, some sort of trauma, right? Or what we want to do in the future, which is a form of contribution, or what I call safe space, living our purpose. Most folks haven't taken the time to understand either of those. So what happens is, an event occurs in the past that may have been insignificant, that becomes a trauma inside of us, and we keep operating based on that trauma. So I was sharing with you, before we started recording, I have this huge fear of new technology because my trauma is, if something goes wrong, it's my fault. And then the default to that is I'll be punished somehow. Right? So here you have a 58-year-old man, successful entrepreneur, who's still got that fear going on about, if something goes wrong, it's my fault and I'll be punished. And that's trauma that happened to me as a child. And if I don't understand that correlation, that connection, it goes into relationships. So I'll share another story with you, if I may. I was in France with my son for the Rugby World Cup. He's 24 years old, amazing young man, working with my coach as well on himself. And, he's very quiet, very confident in who he is. So he doesn't speak much. And he's told me and his mom and his sister, I don't need to speak all the time, particularly with those that I care about and know, because there's nothing to say. I don't need to fill in the void. He's okay with who he is. And one day he says, Dad, I can feel your anxiety. He says, your nervousness. He says, we're in France. We're at the Rugby World Cup. Relax, man. And we talked about his piece for silence. And as we're chatting, I realized that the reason I was nervous about his silence, I was interpreting as, I've done something wrong. It's my fault. He's not happy. And I could have spiraled into, the kids, look at all what I've done. He's entitled. He's not appreciated. I could have gone down that road. And what I realized was that the voice in my head was around my mother would punish me through silence as a form of passive aggression. So the point is, if we don't understand what our trauma is back here, or the story or the wound, it's going to infiltrate into relationships. And 100%. The extreme is the child trafficking and the abuser.
Exactly. And that's the extreme. If we can all ask ourselves, I was never trafficked or abused as a child, but I have my own set of trauma that affected all my relationships. And so you're 100% right. I take a look at when I was 7, 8 years old, and I had bullies that would make fun of me, that would make fun of my name, make fun of my, I had buck teeth at the time. They call me Bucky, and And my dad told me, he said, well, just tell them that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And so next time they were picking on me, I said those words, and they said, well, let's take, and they picked up some sticks and stones and started throwing them at me. I'm like, crap, you can't win. So, there's all kinds of different things that we deal with. It is as we take a look at our upbringing of how we were raised, our religious background, the culture that we're in, our financial background, all of these things, our relationship with money, our relationship with our parents, our relationship with our siblings, all of these things affect the rest of our lives. And if we don't take a step back and analyze what those things are, then here you are 50, 60 years old, and they're still creating this negativity in your relationships.
And then what happens in the context of family business, right? You talked about emotional traditions, right? You've got traditions of behaviors that, if are left unexamined, will impact, will leak into the present and impact the future, right? And the work that we do at Veritage is helping individuals really reconnect with themselves. It's about creating a safe space with ourselves before we can feel safe with another human being. Like, I couldn't have shared what I just shared with you had I not felt safe with you and with the audience. But it's got to start with me feeling safe emotionally with myself. And one of our basic human needs is we want to feel emotionally safe with each other. We just don't know how.
100%.
Because there's a disconnection, because the trauma or the wound or the story is in the way. And what I have found in my own personal journey is when I reconnect with my inner child, right? His name is Little Chef, little 5-year-old Franco. That's where the magic happens, right?
And I think that the key too is in your mind getting to the point where emotionally you can go back to that 5-year-old version of yourself, that 7-year-old version of yourself, and give them what they didn't receive from their parents, from their loved ones, etc. And so, by me going back, in fact, I did this with I had a guided meditation journey experience where the facilitator took me back to when I was 7, and all of these kids were picking on me, and I just felt like the lowest person on the planet. And the facilitator said, he was visualizing there and said, okay, imagine yourself kneeling down in front of that 7-year-old version of Paul, and seeing him and saying, okay, what do you need? What are the things that you can say to him to make him feel better? And what I said, don't worry, little Paul. You're going to grow up to be a multi-millionaire, and you're going to marry a movie star, which I ended up doing, right? But if that little 7-year-old knew that I was going to marry a movie star and be ultra wealthy, then all of that crap wouldn't matter. Those kids can pick me all day long, but he just felt super empty and super unloved and super unimportant. But by giving him that, then later on, then it wasn't affecting the rest of my life by trying to prove to the world that I was somebody.
Yeah, it's you nailed it, Paul. It's about going back and when I talk about connecting with the inner child, my experience is about being with the feelings that come up from that inner child. So, for example, this morning, the fear of I'm going to screw this up and it's my fault and I'll be punished. I was there with them because, yes, that could happen. And I've got Tom, who, by the way, people is in the background producing this, making sure nothing goes wrong. That gives me a feeling of safety and security. And that leads to the piece of I realized, I never really felt like part of a team because my family was very, very dysfunctional. I was sexually abused by a parent. So there was no safety there. So I've had to build my team, my family as an adult that I can trust and feel safe with. And unless we're able to be with the feelings of the inner child, we can't connect with them. And the work that we do with our clients, the bulk of it is about helping them reconnect with their feelings, because I believe, Paul, societally, we are more disconnected than ever emotionally from ourselves and each other.
100%. 100%. And that, that's really what my focus is now. For years I had the foundation was the Child Liberation Foundation, and that still helps to pay for the rescue and rehabilitation of these children. We still have teams that are going out and performing the rescues, etc., and it's working on healing those children. But I started a new group called Liberating Humanity, because liberating humanity, the only way to do that is to help all of these adults. I've realized that my job is not just to rescue the 10-year-old from the clutches of a trafficker in Colombia. My job is to help rescue the 10-year-old inside of every 30 and 40, 50-year-old man or woman who is still dealing with all of this crap from their childhood. If we can do that, the entire world changes. Everything changes. We don't look at each other with all this animosity. We're not out there trying to prove something and pushing other people down. We're not passing it on with domestic abuse or child abuse or anger issues or low self-esteem. All of these things can be resolved if we can take a step back and give that 10-year-old that rescue they need inside of ourselves, inside of our own childhood. So that is 100% what my focus is. In fact, that's why we're here in Thailand. We're meeting with some different masters, some Tao masters focused on childhood healing, etc., and working with adults and helping them work through those issues, etc. So the whole purpose of us being here is putting together some different modalities that we can take to the world and help to heal humanity.
Yeah. I remember my coach telling me, I've been working with him for 21 years, right? And he said to me one day, he says, the key to the treasure box is when you connect with the little child. And I thought at the time, my ego, oh, that means I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to have all of this, blah, 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 blah. And now I realize the treasure chest is the emotional connection with the child, right? And what happens in family businesses is the disconnection between a founder and their inner child, or a founder and their son or daughter, or a founder and their siblings, is they're not connected to themselves. So if I'm not connected to myself, how can I possibly connect with you? If I don't feel safe with myself and my own insecurities, how can I share those with you? The default is behaviors that will get in the way of creating the connection. So I think what you're doing, Paul, is amazing. You like me want to create a safer world, right? You're going about it in your way, and I'm going about it through the modality of family businesses, because I believe if family members within family businesses can feel emotionally safe with each other, and then have their employees feel safe and their suppliers feel safe, together we're transforming the world.
Yeah, 100%. That's really what it's about. And the thing about your approach that I love, I call it the tip of the umbrella, right? Okay. If you can focus on the family offices, on the multi-generational family offices that have huge influence. They're royalty, they're billionaires, they're families that have a lot of employees. By helping them to heal, to lead their family with love, and then to lead their companies with love, that umbrella effect, coming from the top and spreading down to all of the good people that they have influence over, is going to have a positive impact in the lives of millions of people, not just the thousands of people that are involved in those families. So that's one thing that we're doing with some of our healing retreats. We have these fully immersive, transformational healing experiences where they can come in and spend 4 or 5 days in working through some of their trauma, etc. And our goal is to work with that tip of the umbrella. And I've been blessed to have had association with a lot of great family offices. In fact, for many years, I only spoke in groups of family offices. I spoke with royalty and billionaires and change makers because I was still undercover and I couldn't go public at all. And so I was talking to some huge influencers and they said, Paul, let's just get you in front of the influencers, the top of the top, that tip of the umbrella. And by doing so, you can help change laws and change culture and change these ultra wealthy families. And so for many years, those were the only ones that heard some of my child rescue mission stories because I was still undercover. But I believe it made a huge impact in their countries and their families and in the companies that they ran.
That's awesome. That's it's so nice to meet someone that is on a similar journey and desire to have impact. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like it's a lonely place.
Yeah, it is.
It's like there's days when it's like are we really having impact? And then for me, the joy is when I'm having a coaching session with a client on a one-on-one basis or with a family, and I see the light go on, and they connect a little deeper with themselves and each other, and they start to let go of the conditioning, right? They start to let go of what I call the default identity. I start to step into, I want to design my future. I want to design my future based on truths I tell myself, not based on the lies that I hold to be true, because I've lived my life based on those, right? And, one of the things that Tom shared, since he's joined the firm is he says, the industry tends to focus on what families need to do. There hasn't been enough focus on what's the cause of why they're not doing what they need to do, why they're behaving or not behaving the way they're behaving. Because an abused child goes one of two ways. They either become an abuser or they want to heal abuse. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
I was fortunate.
God bless people like you, Franco. God bless people like you. Literally 2/3 of the people who have gone through that become protectors. They ensure that is never passed on, and they're focused on the healing. And I'm super grateful for all of the people like yourself, that 2/3 of people who were abused as children who never pass that on. And who use that as a motivation to live a better life and to create that protection with those children. So my hat's off to you.
Thank you. And here's where I got to pay tribute to my coach, because he helped me realize that I was still abusing myself through my behaviors and my belief system. I was picking relationships that didn't serve me, were a form of abusing myself. I was abandoning myself. And I had to take a look inside and say, that's got to stop. And that's the piece around liberating the inner child.
Yeah.
Right? So my most important relationship is the one I have with my inner child. He is my beacon. He is the one that I connect with. He is the one that allows me to connect with others at such a deep level. It's not the adult connect, it's child to child. Right? And that's where the magic happens. I think we forget that children love to say the word why, and the other one is no. As adults, we've forgotten the word no, so therefore we have very poor boundaries or porous boundaries because we want to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Or we forget to be curious and ask why. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I doing that? And I think, if individuals considered reconnecting with why and the word no, they may reconnect with their inner child.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 100%.
So if people wanted to learn more about you, Paul, or find you, where do they find you?
Well, you can go on to any social media, my Facebook, Instagram, and just type in the word liberating with an ing. Type in liberating. I'm the first one that comes up. It's liberating.humanity.
That's
So
awesome.
that's what it's all about, is liberating humanity. And you can easily say liberating your inner child, because that's where that all comes from as well. You can learn more about you can go to liberatinghumanity.com. And there's some links that are there with some different things that you can do to help your family heal. There's a lot of podcast links that are in there as well. In fact, when this one comes out, then we'll place a link of this one on there so that people can find you and your podcast as well. To find out more on the Child Liberation Foundation, you can just go to liberatechildren.org and get some more information there on how to keep the kids safe, can help donate and make a difference in that arena as well.
That's awesome. Paul, I can't believe the show's gone by so fast. And I always like to finish asking my guests one question. It's the same question for both generations. So, for the senior generation and the next gen, what's one piece of advice you could offer them based on your experiences?
Well, we can go in deep on this one. I'm just gonna touch on this. This is half your audience is gonna go, oh my hell, but I'm telling you this works. Searching far and wide, understanding how difficult it is for people to release their inner child, how difficult it is to change generational behaviors, how ineffective a lot of traditional therapy is. I began looking globally to find some different tools. And so I'm just going to throw this out there as an option. I would suggest that people read a book called Change Your Mind and another one called The Immortality Key. These are books to help us understand that since you and I were born, I was born in 1970, and in the late 60s, our government decided to throw a whole bunch of things under the bus and label them as really bad. And our entire lifetime, we've been taught that certain things are evil and are dangerous. And what I'm talking about is this: things like sassafras and white lily and mistletoe and psilocybin. These are all different types of plant medicine tools that were labeled as Schedule I drugs in the late 60s. Okay. And because of that, our whole life, we've thought they're as dangerous as cocaine. Well, psilocybin is about as addictive and is about as dangerous as table sugar, right? However, when used with a trained facilitator, I'm not advocating people go out there and get high and, go to a rave and whatever else. But when used with a trained facilitator that is trained on helping somebody release their inner child and how to heal some of that child abuse or situations they've dealt with, it is more effective than 10 years of therapy. And so I'm working on changing some of the laws in the US. Meanwhile, we're hosting events throughout Latin America and other places where we have tip of the umbrella family offices, world leaders that are coming in and helping them change their perceptions of themselves and get more out of a 2 or 3 day event than they do in 10 years of therapy. So I'm just kind of throwing that out. Do your own research on it. I'm going head to head with all of the big pharmaceutical companies that think that you should be addicted to Xanax and Zoloft your entire life. No, you don't. We can get you over that pretty quick. So anyway, that's my short bit of advice that has been super effective in helping release that inner child, helping to heal that inner child in ways that I have never found before. So
I'm gonna agree with you because I have done some of those. I've done a lot of work with my coach, and I've also done the plant medicine route, and it's amazing. It is truly amazing. It's a quick shortcut, and then it's about doing the work after.
It's about doing the work. It's not going to fix everything. It's going to turn those light bulbs on, and it's going to help you see yourself in a different light. But it's the follow-up. It's the work through. That will create the breakthrough, and then working through it with your coach is vital. Yes. So yeah, it's a powerful tool, and I would suggest people just read a little bit about it. Just do some more research and identify some things that may be a fit for you.
And the one thing I'll add to that is it's a calling. When you're ready to do it, you will be called to it. That's what happened to me, right? I'd heard about it for years and years and years. And then one year, 4 clients said, you got to go do this. One of them was a 65-year-old. I went, maybe it's time I go do this. So I did. And it was awesome because
Good.
it just shows you this is the thing. And once you see the thing, you can start to work on it.
Exactly. It's exactly what it does. It helps
Yeah.
you identify what it is you need to work on, because so many times
Exactly.
that's so buried. We put all these boundaries in front of ourselves at 7 and 8 and 10 years old, and we don't realize what it is that we need to work on, and it shows it to you. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, that makes sense. Now I know what that feels like. I know what self-love feels like. I know what that inner peace feels like. I know what being able to look in the mirror and have that true love and respect for that current me and that 7-year-old me. All of those things that will help you see, but then you do the work moving forward. So
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you.
So folks, there you have it. First episode of the new and improved Safe Space podcast. Paul, thank you so much for being on the show. And folks, as you've heard me say, we do this for you, the audience. I recognized early on that there is it's a lonely place being part of a family business, particularly in next gen, especially talking about the sensitive emotional issues. So I wanted to create a community for you to realize that you're not alone. The issues you face with, the challenges you face are common to all of us, not just family businesses. And I want to have guests here that can encourage you, inspire you to take a look and say, yes, I can face this and I don't have to do it alone. The most important thing, though, is share the show with those that matter to you so that they don't feel alone either. And the last piece is, if there's something that Paul and I spoke that sort of spoke to you or made you think or maybe even pissed you off, drop us a note. Let us know so we can know how to better serve you.
Thank you.
Paul, thank you so much.
Super grateful for your time and letting me share with your audience. And absolutely, I'm a huge fan of your mission in helping to liberate that inner child, because that is the key to liberating humanity.
Thank you.